Have you ever spent nights awake, your mind racing with what ifs? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if I'm not enough? I think we all have. We've all carried that invisible weight. The pressure, the fear, the constant worry about things that may never even happen. And yet, we rarely stop to ask ourselves one simple question: what if everything actually turns out better than we imagined? You see, life has a strange way of working. The more we worry, the more we push away the peace, the opportunities, and the miracles waiting for us. But when we finally learn to let go, to trust, something magical happens. The doors that once seemed locked begin to open on their own. I'm not here to tell you that life is easy. I'm here to remind you that worrying doesn't make it easier. It makes it heavier. So today, I want you to give me just a few minutes of your heart and attention, because by the time we finish, I promise you'll start to see your struggles, your delays, and even your failures in a completely different light. Because when you finally stop worrying, miracles don't just happen, they find you. You know, one of the biggest truths I've learned in life is this: worry doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. Worry is that quiet voice in your head whispering, what if it doesn't work? While the universe is softly trying to say, but what if it does? Most people don't realize that the moment they start worrying, they begin to shut down the very energy that creates change. They disconnect from life's flow. It's like trying to drive a car with the handbrake on. You're pushing the gas, you're working hard, but you're not moving anywhere meaningful. We think worrying is a form of preparation. We tell ourselves, if I worry enough, I'll be ready for anything. But the truth is, worry doesn't prepare you, it paralyzes you. It keeps you stuck in the same loop, rehearsing every possible failure until your mind believes it's already lost. Worrying is like praying for what you don't want. You send out a constant signal of fear, doubt, and scarcity, and life mirrors that energy right back to you. When you worry, you're basically saying, I don't trust life. I don't trust myself. And that belief quietly shapes every decision you make. You hold back from trying new things because you're afraid to fail. You stop dreaming big because you're afraid of disappointment. You build walls around your heart, thinking you're protecting yourself. But what you're really doing is shutting out every possibility that could have changed your life. I've seen this happen again and again. People come to me saying, I feel stuck. I don't know why nothing ever works out. And when we dig deeper, it always comes back to one thing: fear disguised as worry. They're not out of options, they're out of trust. Because when you're living in worry, you can't see clearly. You can't notice the small opportunities right in front of you because your mind is too busy imagining worst case scenarios. Let me tell you something: life doesn't respond to fear. It responds to faith, even if that faith is just the size of a spark. When you choose peace over panic, you start aligning with the natural rhythm of life. You start noticing that things begin to work with you instead of against you. Think about the times in your life when things finally started to go right. Maybe it was after months of stress and nothing was working. You were exhausted, frustrated, and finally said to yourself, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to let it go. And then somehow, the moment you let go, the call came, the solution appeared, the right person showed up. That wasn't coincidence. That was life waiting for you to release your grip. Worry tightens everything. It closes your heart, clouds your mind, and drains your energy. But when you stop worrying, you open yourself to flow. Flow isn't about forcing things. It's about allowing. It's about trusting that whatever happens, you can handle it. You might not control everything, but you can control your state, your peace, your focus, your energy, and that's where your real power lies. The most successful, fulfilled people aren't the ones who never face problems. They're the ones who've learned not to let worry steal their power. They know that uncertainty is a part of life, and they choose to lean into it instead of running from it. They replace the question, what if it goes wrong, with what if this is exactly what I need to grow? That shift from fear to curiosity, from tension to trust, changes everything. Because worry is resistance, and resistance creates friction. But trust creates momentum. So I want you to imagine this for a moment. What would your life look like if you stopped worrying even just for a day? What would happen if, instead of overthinking your next move, you simply acted from a place of calm confidence? How many doors could open if your energy wasn't tied up in fear? You'd start to notice little signs that things are working in your favor. You'd start to feel lighter, more creative, more alive. You take bolder actions, not because everything is guaranteed to go perfectly, but because you finally believe that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. And here's the truth. The miracle isn't in the outcome. The miracle is in your shift. The moment you move from worry to trust, the world rearranges itself to meet that new energy. You begin to attract clarity, people, and opportunities that match your calm instead of your chaos. So the next time you feel that wave of worry rising inside you, take a breath. Remind yourself that you've survived every difficult moment so far. You've faced uncertainty before and found your way through it. This moment is no different. Let go of the need to control every detail. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay open, stay grounded, and keep your heart steady. Because when you stop fighting against life, you allow life to work its magic. And that's when the miracles begin. Trust. That's where every miracle begins, not in knowing the plan, not in having all the answers, but in that quiet, unshakable belief that somehow, even when things don't make sense, life is still moving in your favor. Most people think faith means everything has to look clear before they take a step. But real trust begins in the dark, when you can't see what's ahead and you still take that step anyway. That's where transformation starts. So many people spend their lives trying to control everything, every outcome, every conversation, every little detail, because deep down, they don't trust that life can work without their constant supervision. They think if they stop pushing, everything will fall apart. But what if it's the pushing that's keeping it from coming together? What if the very thing you're chasing is waiting for you to stop chasing? Think about it. How many times in your life did something not go according to plan? Maybe a job fell through, a relationship ended, a door slammed shut, and you were convinced it was over. You thought, this is the worst thing that could have happened. But then, weeks or months later, something else came along that made you say, now I see why that had happened. That's trust in motion. That's the universe rearranging things for your highest good, even when it doesn't look like it in the moment. When you trust, you don't need to force outcomes. You start to understand that every delay, every rejection, every closed door might just be protection. Sometimes, not getting what you want is the most beautiful blessing in disguise. Because trust doesn't mean everything will go your way. It means everything will go the way it's meant to. And when you truly believe that, peace replaces panic. The mind always wants control. It wants guarantees, proofs, promises. But life doesn't operate on those terms. Life asks you to believe before you see, and that's hard, I get it. Especially when you've been hurt, disappointed, or let down before. But here's the truth, trust isn't about trusting life to be easy. It's about trusting yourself to be strong enough to handle it. When you know you can handle whatever comes, you stop living in fear of the unknown, you stop resisting the flow, and that's when real miracles start to unfold. There's a deep shift that happens when you move from worry to trust. Worry keeps you in survival mode, trust lifts you into creation mode. In worry, you're constantly reacting, trying to fix, trying to avoid, trying to predict. In trust, you start allowing. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? And the moment you ask that question, your perspective expands. Suddenly, even your struggles start to look like teachers. Every person you've ever admired, every story of transformation you've ever heard, they all have one thing in common: trust. People who create real change don't always know how things will work out, but they trust that if they keep showing up, life will meet them halfway. They trust their intuition even when logic says otherwise. They trust timing even when it feels like nothing is happening. They trust that what's meant for them can't be taken from them. And let me tell you something powerful. When you start to trust at that level, life begins to rise to meet your belief. The right people start showing up, opportunities begin to appear out of nowhere, and coincidences start to look a lot like divine timing. Because life responds to your energy. If you send out fear, you attract confusion. If you send out trust, you attract alignment. But this kind of trust doesn't come from wishing. It comes from practice. It comes from choosing every single day to say, I may not understand it right now, but I know it's working out for me. Even when everything around you says otherwise, you hold that energy. That's the real work, keeping faith when it's hardest to do so. There's a moment, though, when you'll feel it, that shift inside you where you realize you don't have to chase. You don't have to beg. You don't have to fight everything anymore. You just breathe, let go, and watch as things begin to align, because life has a rhythm. And when you're tuned into that rhythm through trust, you don't have to push the river, you flow with it. So many people miss out on miracles because they're too busy trying to control how and when they show up. But the universe doesn't work on your timeline. It works on alignment. When you're ready, when your energy is clear, when your faith outweighs your fear, that's when everything starts moving. Not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed it. Trust is not passive. It's powerful. It's a statement to the universe that says, I'm ready for what's meant for me. I don't need to force it. I don't need to worry. I just need to stay open. And when you live like that, you begin to experience what some call miracles. Those perfect moments when everything just clicks into place and you realize life had a plan all along. Because when you finally choose trust over worry, life doesn't just change. It starts to unfold exactly as it was always meant to, letting go. Two simple words, but they carry more power than most people ever realize. Everyone talks about working harder, trying more, doing more, but very few talk about the strength it takes to release, because letting go isn't weakness. It's not about giving up or quitting. It's about making space for something greater to come through. It's about learning the art of surrender, not the kind that means defeat, but the kind that means freedom. Most of us hold on so tightly to how we think things should be that we block what could actually be. We grip our plans, our expectations, our timelines so hard that we squeeze the life out of them. And then we wonder why nothing's working. The truth is, when you're holding on that tightly, you're not open to anything new. You're trying to force life into a shape that matches your comfort zone. But miracles don't happen in control. They happen in trust. Letting go is what creates room for life to surprise you. Think about it. The best things that ever happened to you. Did you plan them? Did they unfold exactly the way you imagined? Of course not. They came when you finally stopped fighting the current and allowed life to take you somewhere new. We often confuse control with safety. We think if I can just manage every detail, nothing bad will happen. But control doesn't create safety, it creates tension. You can feel it in your body, that tightness in your chest when you're trying to hold everything together. That's not strength. That's fear disguised as effort. Letting go, on the other hand, feels like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. It's the moment you realize you don't have to fix everything. You just have to trust that things can unfold without you forcing them. Here's what people forget. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop controlling. It means you still show up, still do your best, still give your energy, but you release your attachment to the result. You let go of the how and focus on the why. And when you do that, life starts to move with you, not against you. The reason so many people stay stuck isn't because they lack opportunity. It's because they won't let go of what's already gone. They're still holding on to an old story, an old pain, an old version of themselves that no longer fits who they are becoming. You can't step into your next chapter if you're still rooting the last one. Yeah. At some point, you have to say, I release this. I'm ready for what's next. There's a kind of peace that comes with that moment, a deep inner calm that says, I don't need to control everything to be okay. When you let go, you stop fighting reality. You stop trying to make people be who they're not. You stop forcing situations to stay the same when life is trying to evolve them. You learn that not every ending is a loss. Sometimes it's just life clearing the path for your next beginning. I've seen people hold on to jobs, relationships, habits, identities that were slowly draining the life out of them just because they were afraid of what might happen if they let go. But here's the irony, the thing you're afraid to lose might be the very thing keeping you from what you're meant to gain. Sometimes life can't give you the new thing until you release your grip on the old one. It's like carrying a bag full of heavy rocks and complaining that you're tired. You can't pick up anything new until you put that bag down. That's what letting go is. It's putting the bag down. It's saying, I'm done carrying what no longer belongs to me. The beauty of letting go is that it invites a different kind of energy into your life, an energy of trust, flow, and alignment. You start to notice things begin to align naturally. The right people appear. The right doors open. You begin to attract instead of chase. And all of it happens not because you tried harder, but because you stopped resisting. And I know that word surrender can sound scary. It sounds like giving up control. But think about it this way. When a pilot flies through a storm, they don't fight the wind. They adjust. They trust their instruments. They stay steady until the turbulence passes. That's what letting go is. It's staying steady while life moves around you. It's trusting that the storm won't last forever and you'll come out stronger on the other side. The moment you release control, you begin to see possibilities that were hidden by your own expectations. You start to realize that the world doesn't revolve around your plan, revolves around timing, energy, and alignment. You stop needing everything to go perfectly, and instead, you start seeing how everything, even the mess, has a purpose. Letting go is the bridge between faith and freedom. It's the moment you shift from saying, I have to make it happen, to I'm open to what's meant to happen. And that's when the universe starts to move pieces you couldn't move on your own. So maybe it's time to loosen your grip, to stop fighting the tide, to trust that what's meant for you can't pass you by, and what's leaving was never meant to stay. Because when you finally let go, not from fear, but from faith, you stop standing in your own way. And that's when miracles find their way in. Gratitude changes everything. It's one of the simplest, most powerful shifts a person can make, but also one of the most overlooked. Most people wake up every morning, and the first thing their mind does is look for what's missing, what's not right, what's not enough, what's not working. And when you start your day that way, you begin creating from a place of lack. You start chasing happiness instead of living it. But the truth is, gratitude doesn't wait for perfection, it creates it. When you focus on gratitude, you change the frequency you live on. It's not just about saying thank you when things go well. It's about seeing the beauty even in the chaos. It's about training your mind to recognize that life is happening for you, not to you. Because when you start seeing your life through the lens of gratitude, something incredible happens. Fear loses its power. Worry starts to fade. You stop living in reaction and start living in creation. The human mind is designed to protect us, and that means it's constantly scanning for danger, physical, emotional, or even imagined. That's why worry comes so easily. Gratitude is what interrupts that pattern. It tells your nervous system, I'm safe, I'm enough, I have what I need. And from that space, you start attracting more of what matches that energy, because whatever you focus on, you feed. Focus on fear and you create more of it. Focus on gratitude and you open yourself to abundance. Think about the times in your life when you were deeply grateful for something. Maybe it was a person who stood by you when no one else did. Maybe it was a simple moment, a sunset, a quiet laugh, a deep breath after a long day. For that moment, everything felt right. You weren't worried about the future or stuck in the past. You were present, and that's what gratitude does. It anchors you in the now, the only place where miracles can actually happen. Gratitude isn't just an emotion. It's a choice. It's a decision to shift your focus from what's missing to what's working, because there's always something working, even when you can't see it. The problem is most people are waiting for life to get better before they feel grateful. But it doesn't work that way. Life gets better because you feel grateful. Gratitude isn't the result of happiness, it's the foundation of it. When you make gratitude a daily practice, your energy changes. You start speaking differently, walking differently, showing up differently. You stop complaining about what's wrong and start appreciating what's right. And that doesn't mean you ignore your challenges. It means you don't let them define your reality. You start seeing them as lessons as opportunities to grow, to strengthen, to rise. There's something truly powerful about a person who can stand in the middle of a storm and still say, I'm thankful. Not thankful for the pain itself, but thankful for the strength it's building, the clarity it's creating, the wisdom it's awakening, because that person is untouchable. They're no longer controlled by circumstances. They're guided by perspective. And perspective is everything. Gratitude turns problems into purpose. It turns pressure into progress. It transforms waiting into preparation. When you're grateful, even delays start to make sense. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, what is this trying to show me? And that shift, that simple pivot in your mind changes the entire story. Every day, life gives you hundreds of reasons to be frustrated, anxious, or angry. But it also gives you hundreds of reasons to be grateful. And the difference between those two experiences isn't luck, it's focus. Gratitude is a filter, and what you see through it depends on what you decide to look for. The more you look for blessings, the more you find them. The more you find them, the more they multiply. That's not just philosophy. It's energy. It's how life responds to you. There's a calm confidence that comes with gratitude. You stop comparing your path to someone else's because you realize yours has its own timing. You stop needing to control everything because you trust that what's meant for you won't miss you. Gratitude gives you patience, not because you stop wanting more, but because you learn to love where you are on the way to where you're going. And here's the magic. When you live from that place, worry doesn't have room to exist. Worry and gratitude can't coexist in the same moment. One will always drive the other out. The question is, which one are you feeding? Every time you choose gratitude, you weaken the hold of fear. You shift from survival to creation. You move from waiting for a miracle to becoming one. So start simple. Right now, think of 3 things you're grateful for, not things you should be grateful for, but things that genuinely move you when you think about them. Feel it, not just in your mind, but in your heart. That feeling, that quiet warmth, that's the energy that attracts miracles, because miracles don't come to a restless, fearful heart. They come to one that's open, peaceful, and thankful for what already is. And when you live with that energy, when gratitude becomes your default, you'll realize something beautiful. You never had to chase miracles. They were always chasing you. Everything in this world is energy. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every emotion you feel. It's all energy that you're sending out into the universe. And the truth is that energy doesn't disappear. It comes back to you. What you give is what you receive. Most people don't realize how much power they have in shaping their lives, not by force, but through vibration, through the energy they carry every single day. When you wake up in the morning feeling anxious, fearful, or angry, the world mirrors it back to you. You start seeing more things that confirm what you already feel. You attract people in situations that match that vibration. It's not magic, it's alignment. The energy you put out creates a pattern, and that pattern shapes the quality of your experiences. If your energy is rooted in worry, you'll always find something else to worry about. But if your energy is grounded in peace and gratitude, life begins to flow with you. You've probably heard people say, you get what you give, but most don't understand the depth of that truth. You're not just reacting to life, you're broadcasting to it. Every thought carries a frequency, and when you live in fear, frustration, or doubt, you're unconsciously tuning into a channel that attracts more of the same. But when you shift into faith, love, confidence, or joy, everything around you begins to rearrange to meet that new energy. I've met people who say, I've tried everything, nothing changes. But when we look deeper, we realize they're still operating from the same emotional state. They're trying to create success from frustration, or love from loneliness, or peace from chaos. That doesn't work. You can't create abundance from a place of lack, just like you can't build trust while expecting betrayal. Energy doesn't lie. The world doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you truly feel. And that's why inner work is everything. You can take all the action in the world, but if your energy is filled with doubt, that energy will block your progress. The most powerful thing you can do for your life isn't always doing more. It's aligning more. Aligning your emotions with what you actually desire. You can't attract love if you're carrying resentment. You can't attract peace if you're consumed by anger. And you can't attract miracles if your energy is full of fear. It starts with awareness. Begin to notice how you feel when things go wrong. Do you shrink? Do you blame? Do you spiral into frustration? Or do you take a breath and realign your energy before reacting? That pause, that moment between reaction and response, is where your power lives. Because that's where you can choose the energy you give. Think about the people you love being around. They have a calmness, a presence that feels magnetic. You can't always explain it, but you feel it. They radiate peace, confidence, and positivity. That's energy. That's alignment. And what happens when you're around them? You start feeling lighter too. That's how energy works. It's contagious. The more peace you embody, the more peace you spread, and the more it returns to you. But here's the catch. This isn't about pretending to be positive. It's not about slapping a smile over pain or denying how you feel. It's about being real enough to feel it, but wise enough not to live in it. You can acknowledge your fear without becoming your fear. You can feel your sadness without letting it define your energy. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be conscious. To choose moment by moment the energy you're putting into the world. The same principle applies when it comes to love and relationships. If you want love that's deep, lasting, and honest, you have to give that energy first, not just to others, but to yourself. You can't expect people to love you fully when you haven't learned to love yourself deeply. When your energy says, I'm not enough, the world reflects that belief right back to you. But when your energy says, I am whole, I am worthy, I am ready, the world begins to match it. Everything you're seeking, peace, success, joy, fulfillment, isn't outside of you. It's a reflection of your inner state. Change your energy, and your life has no choice but to change with it. It might not happen overnight, but it always happens in perfect timing, because energy attracts its match, and the moment you become the energy of what you desire, it starts moving toward you. Sometimes that means walking away from things or people who keep pulling your energy down, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Because you can't rise while you're constantly surrounded by what keeps you small. Protect your peace. Protect your vibration. You don't owe your energy to every situation. You owe it to the life you're trying to create. And when you finally start living from that space, when your energy becomes calm, focused, and trusting, everything starts to shift. The right people appear, new doors open, ideas flow, and you begin to experience little moments of synchronicity that remind you this is what alignment feels like. Because the energy gives the energy that comes back always. And when what you give is peace, trust, and love, the world can't help but return it to you multiplied. There's something extraordinary that happens when you finally allow yourself to breathe, when you stop overthinking, stop forcing, stop trying to control every outcome, and just let life unfold. That's when everything begins to shift. That's when the miracles start to show up, because a relaxed mind isn't lazy. It's powerful. It's focused, aware, and open enough to notice the opportunities that a worried mind would have missed. You see, most people spend their entire lives in mental overdrive. They're constantly analyzing, calculating, worrying, and replaying scenarios that don't even exist yet. Their bodies are in the present, but their minds are stuck in the past or trapped in the future. And they wonder why they're exhausted, not physically, but emotionally and spiritually. They've forgotten what it feels like to be still, to trust, to listen. When your mind is restless, your intuition can't speak. It's drowned out by noise, the noise of fear, doubt, and what ifs. But when you quiet that noise, when you let your shoulders drop and your breath deepen, that inner voice starts to rise again. It's soft, but it's sure. It knows exactly where you need to go and what you need to do. You just have to be calm enough to hear it. A calm mind is a clear mind, and clarity is power. When you're at peace, decisions become easier. You stop reacting out of fear and start responding out of wisdom. You start seeing patterns, connections, and signs that were invisible before because your attention was scattered. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. When you're calm, you're aligned with the rhythm of life instead of fighting against it. The truth is, miracles don't happen in chaos. They happen in stillness. When your mind is racing, you're too busy trying to make something happen. But when you relax, you give life permission to meet you halfway. That's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, what you were chasing begins to find you. It's not because you stopped caring. It's because you finally stepped into trust. Think about the times in your life when something beautiful happened out of nowhere. The right person showed up, the solution appeared, a situation that felt impossible suddenly worked itself out. You weren't forcing it in that moment, were you? You probably had reached a point where you said, I can't do this anymore, I'm just gonna let it go. And that surrender created space for grace, space for the unexpected to happen. That's not luck. That's life responding to your energy. When you're in that relaxed state, you begin to realize that life is not something you have to control, it's something you can dance with. You move, it moves. You breathe, it breathes. It's a flow. The more you relax, the more you start noticing how perfectly everything connects. The delays, the detours, the lessons, you start to understand that even when things don't go your way, they're still going the right way. And that's the moment when peace replaces panic. You no longer need everything to happen on your timeline because you trust that it's happening on the right one. You stop clenching your fists and start opening your hands. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what's this teaching me? And when you shift into that mindset, even your challenges become part of the miracle. Relaxation isn't laziness. It's confidence in motion. It's the awareness that you don't have to fight the current to reach your destination. You just have to stay steady enough to steer. When you're calm, you conserve your energy for what actually matters. You stop wasting it on imaginary problems and start investing it into real possibilities. That's the power of a relaxed mind. It doesn't drain, it creates. You can feel this truth in nature. Look at water. When it's calm, it reflects everything clearly. But when it's disturbed, you can't see anything beneath the surface. Your mind works the same way. When it's turbulent, everything looks distorted. But when it's still, truth becomes visible. You start seeing what's really in front of you, not the story your fear is telling you, but the reality your heart already knows. And that's where miracles live. Not in the noise, not in the chaos, but in the quiet, steady moments when you finally stop resisting. When you breathe, trust, and let go, you create space for new possibilities to enter. The right idea, the right person, the right timing, it all starts to flow to you naturally without force. Because now, you're not blocking it with fear. You're allowing it through peace. The world doesn't reward panic, it responds to presence. When you're calm, you're magnetic. You draw in solutions not because you're lucky, but because your energy is clear enough to receive them. You become like a tuning fork for miracles, vibrating at the frequency of trust, gratitude, and openness. So take a breath right now. Feel your shoulders relax. Remind yourself that you've made it through every difficult moment so far. Life has never abandoned you. It's always guided you, even when you didn't realize it. You don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just have to be still enough to let it arrive. Because when your mind is at peace, life finally has room to work its magic, and that's when miracles start to happen.